Okay, Pelham, sit. Good boy. Down. You're going to be blind in 2 weeks, is what the doctor told me as I lay alone on the gurney in the emergency room. The clarity of those words are my everyday reality every morning when I wake up since 2011. The diagnosis, NAION, or non-arteritic anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. No, don't go to WebMD right now, okay? There'll be time for it later. But I promise you that A, it is not contagious, and B, the chances of you getting it are truly millions to one. That was my 1,000,000 to 1 day. And I should have bought a lottery ticket. What I'm left with is a perception of light and shapes. So I will ask you, please, applaud and laugh at the right places so that I know that you're still here and I'm not alone in this room, okay? So as you can imagine, this was the most difficult day of my life. And my thought was, wow, how am I going to deal with this situation? But my challenge to you is, face change when it comes at you. Now, as I lay there on the gurney, all by myself, as you can imagine, I was getting sucked into the darkness of anger, despair, and self-pity. How are you handling the changes that are happening in your life? So let me ask you, is there a change that is happening in your life right now? Maybe it started last year. Maybe you see it coming straight at you. So if we spend the next minutes together, think about that change. Hello, I'm Andre van Hal. I'm the author of the book, It Didn't Kill the Cat: How Curiosity Ignites the Power of Change. I'm a native of Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I'm a 40-year veteran of the most inhospitable business in the world, namely the hospitality industry. I worked in 3 continents and 12 cities. I'm fluent in 5 languages and an analphabet in most of them. As you can see, I've had a lot of change in my life. But you know what? As I lay on that gurney, wallowing in self-pity and going down into the darkness, I had a choice, right? I can curse the darkness or I can light a candle. How are you handling the change that is happening in your life? Do you prefer to wallow in self-pity and curse the darkness? Or do you have the courage to stand up and light a candle? And you see, as I was there, feeling oh so sorry for myself, all of a sudden, I laughed out loud. And the nurse comes running over and says, "What's the matter? Anything wrong?" I go, "Oh, no, I just thought of a bad joke." And she says, "Well, it's late in my shift. I need to laugh, so out with a joke." I said, "Okay, you asked for it." I said, this teacher walked into the classroom and said, "Students, what body part grows 10 times when stimulated?" And the little Susie jumps up and says, "I can't believe you're asking that of us. I'm 5th grade after all." The teacher says, "Susie, sit down." Says, "Tommy, you got your hand up. What is the answer?" Says, "Well, it is the pupil in the eye when stimulated by drugs." "Excellent, Tommy," she said. "Susie, stand up. I'm going to tell you 3 things. Number 1, you obviously didn't do your homework. Number 2, you got a very dirty little mind. And number 3, when you're all grown up, you're going to be very disappointed." So the nurse are going, oh my goodness, you got to share this with my friends. So she brings other nurses and we're telling jokes. And guess what? There, for just the briefest of moments, the darkness had dissipated. No, I wasn't seeing any better. As a matter of fact, my eyesight was deteriorating by the moment. But what changed was my outlook. I chose to laugh at the situation. Can you laugh at the change that is happening in your life? Do you realize that humor is part of the healing? How would you choose to face change differently? Because you see, one of the biggest shames in life is to have your eyesight but not see the blind spots that are holding you back now. You see, the original blind spot is the one that is in our eye where the optic nerve goes into the retina and we have no light perception there. Yet our brain fools us into believing that we see everything, right? But in our cars, we've done everything that we can. We got a rear view mirror, we got side mirrors, we got sensors, we got cameras. And yes, we crane our necks sometimes, right? Well, you don't want me driving, so. But we do everything that we can to fill in that blind spot. Yet, in our lives, so many times we tend to ignore them. So understand that curiosity is the tool to eliminate your blind spots. So my challenge to you today is to please allow your curiosity to take over and to bring you into the light so that you can eliminate your blind spots. And you know, how when there is a total darkness and a bolt of lightning comes in and you see every single detail and it gets impregnated into your eye, well, that is how I drank the world in through my eyes for the next 2 weeks because I wanted to remember what seeing is like. Now, as an avid cyclist, I never climbed a mountain, I attacked the mountain, right? Now, some grannies did pass me, but they had a different attack formula than I did, right? But how are you facing your problem? Are you just waiting for it to come at you? Are you waiting for the change to handle you? Or are you attacking it with everything that you have got? How would you see the world differently if you became more curious? You see, when I was growing up in Argentina, I was in an all-boy British boarding school. Getting the picture? Our sports were soccer and rugby. I sucked at both. I was a full head shorter than the next tallest guy. So my position in rugby was hooker. Look it up later. I won't tell you about it. So because of my size and because of my lack of athleticism, I was relentlessly and brutally hazed and bullied. And I hated being in that school so much that one day, with tears in my eyes, I went to see my father. He says, "Dad, please change my school." He had me sit down. He said, "You know what? I can change your school. But all the baggage that makes you who you are is going to go with you to the other school. And the same reasons for which they pick on you, they're going to pick on you in the other school too. The one that needs to change is you." I hated him at that moment. And my regret is that I never got to thank him for the great advice. Because you see, are you the kind of person that stands in the middle of the field thinking you're going to hold back the entire defensive team? Or are you curious and humble enough to understand that you can't do it alone and that you need the help of other people and that sometimes the one that needs to change is you? But speaking of humility, my friend Tim called me up and he says, Andre, now that you're blind and you're an avid cyclist, why don't you and I do the 100-mile Elephant Rock bike ride on a tandem? Well, humility in my book is the ability to accept help. And man, I was not a humble man when I went blind. So my answer to Tim, no way! You think I want to be in the back of the bike looking at your butt all day long? And he says, why you worry? You won't even see it. He did have a point. But you know what? My stubbornness kept coming out. And I'm going like, you know what? I'm in charge kind of guy. I want to be at the front of the bike. I want to do the gears. I want to do the brakes. And yes, I want to do the bell too. And I realized I can be proud on the couch, or I can become a little bit more humble and get on the back of the tandem. Are you willing to be humble and take the back seat? So I bought the tandem. I called Tim and I said, come on, let's go. And he said, wait a minute. I see you've got a lot of gears. You've got disc brakes, okay? How are we going to communicate? Oh, come on, Tim. We're going to figure it out. Let's get riding already. Well, Tim is a very deliberate manager. I am more intuitive. So if I try to bring my management style to the man that is riding in front, is he coming back for a second ride with me? No, right? He's not coming back. So when you take the back seat in life, do you feel you still have to be in charge? Or are you willing to understand that it's time to cede power, to let somebody else be in charge for a moment? So Tim and I got on the bike path. And I'm going, Tim, you're in the wrong gear. You're killing me. And he goes, what do you mean the wrong gear? This is the perfect gear. You see, Tim is a great athlete. He did 23 Boston marathons. Do you feel sometimes that when you are in charge, you need to show off to your team what your great capabilities are? Or are you willing to communicate? Because if Tim keeps that pace, guess what? In 5 miles, we're walking that bike, right? So when you're in charge, be curious about your team and communicate. It's okay for Tim to say, Andre, what about this gear? But be open to me challenging you back and say, well, what about that gear? And things were going wonderful. Tim and I were passing every single bicycle on the path. And we were killing it until we got to a stupid, short climb. And we argued all the way to the top. You know, say in your relationship, wherever it is going, a tandem will get you there faster. Tim and I were fast approaching, like, woo! So just as life is taking you smoothly along, like we were on that bike path, there's always going to be a stupid, short climb. You need to be prepared for it. You see, for me, that was losing my job after I went blind. And after that, I got a nasty cancer. And the cherry on top, it metastasized. But thanks to my family and the curiosity of my friends, we found out that there is a brand new trial on a new miracle drug. And the doctor told me, says, 5 years ago, I would have told you to set your affairs in order. But if this drug works for you, I'm not talking about extending your life. I'm talking about curing you. So my challenge to you is just because you're in one situation of change, don't think that more change is not coming at you. Be open to the idea that change may continue to come. And it's not that the universe has aligned against you. It's just too busy being the universe. Okay? You are the one who has to choose to be curious about how to overcome it. Now today, I challenged you with a lot of different thoughts. But the key ones that I hope that you take away is, are you willing to be humble? Do you understand that there's stuff that you are not seeing? And that the important thing is, stop judging and start assessing You see, because I was the first blind man I ever met. And I knew nothing about blindness. So I judged my blindness by using my prejudices and my preconceived ideas. And I thought all I could do is sell pencils from a tin cup. But when I became curious about blindness and started to understand it better, I started to assess my situation. And it is thanks to that assessment, that curiosity, that I stand today in front of you and able to do this. So stop judging. Understand that when you assess, you're looking forward. When you're judging, you're looking backwards. And I ask these questions of you, it's because I'm curious about you. Because you see, you may not be blind, but you need to see your blind spots. Curiosity will help you see better the change that is coming at you. Curiosity with a touch of humility, and yes, a dash of humor, will help you deal with change with confidence. And remember that you may not be blind, but it is a terrible shame if you lose sight of your blind spots. Good thinking. Thank you. Thank you.